Rex Mason was hired to find the mysterious orb of Ra. Of course, he got betrayed, leaving him for dead inside the collapsing pyramid, because betrayal and tragedy is the best way to get superpowers in comics. But however, he was saved by the discovery of some mysterious chamber. They are basically on some adventuring type Indiana Jones or Uncharted type stuff, you know, discovering these secret chambers and caves with secret artifacts and stuff like that. It was a chamber holding a radioactive meteor, as you can see right here, and that radioactive meteor is what changed him into Metamorpho, which makes him very powerful by default. Some even dub him the Elemental Man, has different modes like gas form, and one of those characters, if written correctly, will be near impossible to beat. He can purposely ignite himself on fire to get rid of all the oxygen in the area to mess his villains up if he wants to. Does this to KO foes. He is an elemental being himself, so he can resist being transmutated. Stated they will transmutate, will turn your crystalline body into booyah, resist it. He even explained how he did it. So I'm learning how to use my new body of mine, drain the high density elements out of the soul to get heavier than the ground under me. Then I pulled the carbon out of the organic gunk in the dirt to undo the crystal jive that Aztec pulled on me. Since he's basically chemical, and the fact his physiology is super unique, he can resist mind control from Starro. When people have the power to control muscles, it doesn't matter to him because he has no muscles. Oh, I forgot to mention Shift. Shift is basically a piece of Metamorpho that be going on its lonesome at times. He has some sort of power, the ability to constrict muscles and torture without laying hand on his victim. That doesn't affect him though. Like him doing this and they're just done for, but yet he's good. He can resist magical temptation, can hack computers, like how he took out half the security cameras. He's literally elemental, so of course he can absorb elements and can control it when he concentrates. The fact that Metamorpho and Shift are kind of separate entities, even when Metamorpho was trapped or knocked out, a part of him can still move around and make it out. Shift is a small part of. Shift can do similar things like absorb properties of nearby elements. Shift also can't get drunk, literally on some split personality disorder stuff. Metamorpho and Shift literally be having conversations with each other. There's even times where he believed he was the true Metamorpho. So you can kind of get an idea of how strong the true Metamorpho is based on anything that Shift can do. Metamorpho should be able to do technically better, or at least equally, right? Like stretching an eye or an ear to eavesdrop. Shift can do this here, like yikes, eyes, and yeah, a small portion of him that he was able to send out after me. Yeah, I'm kind of a small satellite of Metamorpho. I'll be reabsorbed into him when we're done, but being an elemental, he's still strong enough to rip trees out of the ground, also making his hands into a blade. He's strong enough to punch through stone statues. He can turn his hand into titanium into punching this large robot here. Smashes this granite statue. He fighting these powerhouse things like these Olmecs, for example. Endures being stabbed. His arm was frozen too. Breaks it. A Superman tier like Captain Atom tried to blast through this worm, right? Guess what? Metamorpho's able to blast through this worm, showing yet again he should be powerhouse. You know, there's a lot of beings in DC that can copy different people's powers. For example, there was this one guy copying Metamorpho's power and was able to seemingly harm, to a very slight degree, Supes and send him flying like that. Beings like this temporarily restrain Superman, but Superman breaks out, of course, though. He even called him a Metamorpho knockoff. Metamorpho punches through this meteor door, using his hammer, punching through this wall. He can create shockwaves by making his hands into hammers, causing a lot of aerial effect. He can make you chew on some hard rubber ammo, he said. Can shoot out things like Gatling guns, basically. Obliterates this gate. Naturally, he can tunnel under the ground if he so wishes. Well, look at these people he gotta fight, bro. Can literally turn into a giant wheel and bust through walls and roll. Whatever Shift can do, Metamorpho can do, because Shift is literally a part of Metamorpho. When Shift was raging one time, he was threatening to cave in the building. He can take hits from Planet Buster type characters like Despero, liquidy people like Clayface, wail on him. Clayface can't really harm him, just squishing him like liquidy, like he got blitzed by a mind-controlled Flash, and he was able to endure these hits thanks to his physiology. This being floored Flash, and Hal, Jordan Green Lantern, he's one of those people that could still take attacks from beings like this that can hurt powerhouse tiers like Hal Jordan. Beings like Matilda, who can create massive earthquake type stuff. Moment of silence for the fact that there's actually a DC moment where they use the term Planet Buster. Metamorpho can eat attacks from beings such as this. Despite this being having the Planet Buster weapon, Metamorpho still takes these attacks no matter what. It's like DC is technically calling Metamorpho a Planet Buster because he's fighting stuff like this called the Planet Buster. Like this little hammer hit Metamorpho. Hey, it's kind of implying he should be technically a Planet Buster too. Planet Busting in DC isn't no big deal, so this kind of makes sense. He can take hits from himself too, guys, so one can say he's technically not a glass cannon unless he goes like into liquid mode or something crap. He can create shields that withstand building shattering force. He can go in gas mode to where elongated man's attacks just go right through him. In his metal state, he can take the pressure of being at the bottom of the ocean. Like a One Piece character that's a logger that's completely liquid and fluid and you can't really land hits on him. Think of Metamorpho like these guys on drugs. Because one could say he can make himself soft like this, or he can decide to make his body or pieces of his body do enough to withstand bullets to where they bounce off. They state he's the living embodiment of the entire periodic table. Even in this inert state, he's able to withstand almost everything from a gunshot to electrical poison gases or minor explosive detonation. On this occasion, he goes liquidy to the way the bullets go past him. Another occasion of him making himself hard enough to deflect bullets yet again. Law Gear style stuff, large explosions that take out an OMAC. Do literally nothing to somebody that's made out of gas. Building shattering explosions, he can shield his allies from all of this mess. He made shields to shield from Superman Tier's heat vision, like the Eradicator. He withstands ice blast, withstand flamethrowers. Don't get it twisted. He can be KO'd. You got to catch him when he's not in a gassy state. But at the same time, beings like Dr. Light can shoot out beams of light, which is kind of an intangible substance anyway. There was some stuff that was stiffening him up or freezing him basically. He can't move, stiffening him up. But they stated should have killed me while it was frozen. My body adapts. Now he can move. Oh yeah, he can survive in space. More than one occasion of this, by the way. He's like all the elemental people, Hydro Man, Sandman, and stuff put together. I mean, he even regenerated mass from absorbing some sand. They stated, I can make water out of myself and then make more of myself out of the sand. Thanks to his properties, you can't really damage him, even if you're a powerhouse like Despero. I mean, he recovered quickly from attacks from Despero, thanks to his weird body. Like how he was wrapped up here, and he had him wrapped up, he punched out, but he was okay. See him trying to contain him. His head can literally get shot off, and he can kind of heal back. Reform after being cut in half. Common Metamorpho stuff. Arrows are a joke to him. Counters Katana's Soul Taker. He was still being stabbed a ton. He can move to another section of his skull if he wishes. So like, I'm gonna stab his heart right here. He can just move his heart over here. You know, this is one time he got completely obliterated, right? He can literally borrow your body for a few weeks to stay alive if he gets obliterated. He can leech off of the elemental things that our bodies produce to help him reform himself. In this occasion, it took a little while though, showing that he can come back from it though. Yuck, spit you out. I mean, he did recover from complete vaporization. You see this? He's back. He survived stuff. If I was him, I would just turn into a gas. Sonic Blast don't do much to him. He can make himself faster by making his legs into water cannons. He can make himself fast by literally being a wheel. That helps. The fact he can get bigger than buildings. Stretches really far. Again, really far. Fly really far by turning his body to some sort of cape. Even springs to jump really high off a building. He can flow into someone's ear. Create scissors. Can put you in an airtight container to choke you. Become a giant blanket. Can suffocate you. The best way to beat his opponents is to definitely wrap them up and suffocate them. But if they're strong, they can break out though. If he doesn't want to go liquid mode, he can just simply avoid an attack by opening up his body to avoid the attack. Seems to have fast and light reflexes. He avoided his laser. I mean, he did open up his body in time before the laser hit him, you know, and can also deflect it. He can become lead to protect other people from radiation shield bubble thingy. He even does similar things to react to Green Lantern constructs like this drill from Guy Gardner. Turned himself into a rocket on multiple occasions, even if he does look different every time he turns into a rocket. Turns his hand into a parachute. It's bio weapon. He can make an airtight wall to protect from it. Can turn his hands to a lot of different things. Some of the stuff I showed already, like hammer, knife, saw, gun, a pick, crusher, battering ram, mirrors to reflect lasers. Consistently make a ton of bodies for himself. Make 10 clones of himself to make him help him fight. Created a mini version of himself to scout ahead. He can disguise himself like a shark. Mimics an alien conqueror by looking just like him. Made himself look like Batman, but then added other elements from other people to look like. Disguised himself as a prison guard. Shifts just like transforming into a lot of different creatures. He turns into clay. Yep. He's turned into lava. He turned into pure oxygen, gas, turned himself into water to rehydrate Aquaman, turned into steam. I don't know how this works, but he somehow turned himself into a living power ring. In this powered up state, he threw the lantern into the sun, turning the sun green. In the term, kind of depowering Kryptonians because they get the power from the yellow sun, not a green sun. In this state, he seems more powered up than before. Look how he just grabs this ship with ease. He turned himself into literally all of the periodic table guy. He quickly turns from lava and steel in a very short amount of time. Of course, when he was shift, I would say his best way to travel is definitely gas. He can kind of be maneuverable this way, or he can creep past doors he doesn't feel like busting down by just simply going liquid to get flat enough to get in there. He can escape custody by just going in the toilet. They let him use the bathroom and he's already in the toilet. They really thought trapping him in these chains was going to be enough. I mean, why turn into liquid to go under a door? Well, you can just turn into gas and enter places whenever you feel like it. This guy turned into invisible gas before. Back in these older days, lanterns had stupid weaknesses. He was able to exploit the weakness of these Green Lanterns. He became an actual wave to wash away the members of the League of Assassins. I advise you to not have any cuts in your body because he will enter your cut and mess you up from the inside, like turning into lead in its skull. He's the ultimate elemental person, so if you're an elemental person yourself, he can just replicate your atomic makeup and just replicate all of your element and then fight you that way. I mean, we're talking about the same guy that turned into a diamond, literally turn into a giant fireball. That's awesome. He could become a cloud of knockout gas, knock you out by turning into chlorine gas, kill these guards by turning into knockout gas, just turning into acid, like how he can counter people by messing up this metal arm. He even states, feeling a bit rusty, turns into tear gas that goes somebody's lung. Yikes. He turned into one of the densest metals around this metal. He did this to contain a foe that is as hot as the sun. Not even magic is effective against him when he turns into certain elements like hydrogen. In this occasion, laser beams pass through him. Obviously, gas form, bullets go through him. Contain an explosion by going into bricks. Turn into diamond here, then turn into gas after that so he won't be hit. Speaking of his acid can melt tanks, can release pheromones to calm people down. He can fire out blobs to block your gun from shooting. He can create a breathable atmosphere. Turns the orb of Ra into salt. It's an orb with endless potential to cure cancer and all this good stuff. They wanted to weaponize it. He said, nah, even though it was very dense and it was kind of tough, he wanted it to turn it into a piece of salt, showing that he does have some degree of transmutation. I mean, he merged with this landing gear and fixed it in the process. I mean, he can turn any metal element. And we're talking about a guy that literally merged with the OMAC. Like, if we're being honest, he's the ultimate elemental being. Like, if he was to fight other elemental beings from Marvel, I would say he would have their number because he can literally duplicate anything they can do and even possibly merge with them and just shut them down completely. Metamorpho can literally turn into sand if he wanted to. He can literally turn into water. He can copy what they can do, and he can probably take their powers away and use it to his benefit. Not to mention, he could just literally turn into the elemental weaknesses of these guys. Like, for example, he can turn into fire or water. He can turn into ice. He's the element man. We're talking about a guy that can merge with beings that are made out of a certain element, like OMAD, and take him out that way. Thanks to his nature, he can resist things from the dark multiverse. They even say, can use your elemental powers to stay safe. Should be impervious to the effects of the dark energy here from the dark multiverse. Based on all this information, Metamorpho blast power-wise should at least be able to blast away a planet based on the people he's consistently fighting with or helping out. The main thing that's confusing about Metamorpho, can his body, like his actual physical hardened body, take attacks from Superman and Flash tears without turning into a gas or a liquid type substance? We know he can take attacks from these powerhouse tears or planet shattering beings when he goes into gas and stuff, but can he like turn into an element hard enough to withstand? I mean, there's some dense metals in DC, some strong elements, you know, in comics in general, like supermanium, the strongest metal known to science. What's stopping Metamorpho to turn into some of these god tier metals? Even if we haven't seen him do it, shouldn't he technically be able to do it? Or is he only limited to the stuff on the periodic table on Earth, or alien metals are out of his league? You know, couldn't he technically absorb an element that's not necessarily on the periodic table if it's from another planet and make that a part of his base elements he can turn into later on in the future? It's a lot of unanswerable questions about this guy. So if he couldn't turn to these overpowered DC metals on the spot, couldn't he find the metal, absorb the metal, and then use it for future occasions, right? Couldn't Metamorpho turn into the elements of what the key for the Fortress of Solitude is made of or something? That Metamorpho can do things when it comes to radiation that Captain Atom should be able to do. I mean, we see Metamorpho turn into fire, radiation, gas, all in his vid. He's even turned into lava. We haven't seen enough occasions of him to fight Superman, but I would say thanks to him being an elemental god, basically, he should be able to turn into any of the top tier metals or elements that can harm these top tier beings like Superman, Shazam, Black Adam, and etc. DC is a universe with a lot of overpowered metals. What's saying he can't turn into any of these metals or substances if you wish. DC got elements like the Marvelium. They even say certain metals creating a virtually indestructible car to eliminate accidents. Promethium coated metal. I brought up inertant metal in my Karate Kid video before, which is another powerful material in DC. And you got metals like nth metal that's made of Hawkman's mace and stuff like that. It's just a lot of different things. To technically make Metamorpho a powerhouse tier, there's a possibility he could touch these elements, absorb them permanently, and then be able to use them anytime he feels like it. Not to mention Metamorpho's literally faced a planet buster. But what do you guys think? What do you think his blast power is, punching power is, and etc.? I think he's a powerhouse. He's one of those people that don't have that much time to shine, so he doesn't really seem that powerful. But based on all the different overpowered metals we have in DC Comics, he can literally just turn into one of the most overpowered metals and then slug it out with some of the strongest characters that we know of. What's stopping him from turning to the size of buildings and then turning his whole body into like an indestructible metal, like nth metal or something, or inertant, or supermanium? Couldn't he just do this? What do you guys think? Thanks for the donation, guys. Appreciate it a lot, though.